Movie Holics!
Thank goodness.
Welcome back to The Niche. I am Jack Hudgens, and I want to apologize because my voice isn't in peak condition today. Ha! Peak! I don't know if you'll be able to tell, but I'm a little hoarse today, which is why I'm drinking my tea and honey. Honey is an excellent source of antioxidants. That's why I named my dog Honey. That dog's dead now. But the show must go on, and I am ready to plow through it. If things get too bad, I'm sure Kyler will just fix my voice in post. Maybe he'll give me a
Chipmunk voice or something like that. What do you think, guys? Is this appropriate?
Or maybe we'll just go with my Shikishima voice from the Attack on Titan movie review.
Where are my apples?
In any case, I'm here for what seems to be a very Crimson weekend. Roll Tide. Balls suck. I'm of course talking about Crimson Peak, which was released last week, and Kyler and Monica have since reviewed. You can watch Kyler and Monica's review of the film on the before, the after, and the after right up here. As for me, I really wanted to take a different look at this movie, so let's get to it. Crimson Peak is kind of in a niche of its own based on its genre. Director Guillermo del Toro called it a gothic romance. That's not exactly a genre that jumps out at the mainstream.
Hey dude, that new gothic romance just came out this week. You wanna meet up Friday and see it?
What's the last gothic romance that you saw? Hell, what is a gothic romance? Let's look. A gothic romance is a mystery that takes place in the 18th, 19th century and typically involves the supernatural. The setting for a gothic romance is typically in a castle or some large mansion. So that's pretty much Crimson Peak right there. You could probably call Frankenstein the most popular of the genre. There's not many movies made like this anymore, and Crimson Peak feels really unique in an age of tacky gore-spattered horror and found footage movies. Unfortunately, the movie has been sold to the mainstream as a full-on ghost horror, and that's just not true. What it is a twisted mystery, really twisted, that just happens to have ghosts in it. The characters take center stage with really incredible actors in interesting roles, who are like walking set pieces themselves. I mean, they just go through the movie looking visually amazing. This isn't a bad thing. Del Toro has managed to stylize late 19th century aesthetic just enough to look exciting, but appropriate. But then again, Del Toro is artistically incapable of making an ugly looking film. Every set piece is meticulously thought out to represent the movie and its themes just as well as the characters do. The red clay, for example. See, it stains the walls of Allerdale Hall like the blood of the dead, revealing the guilt of... Spoiler Island! We're already there! Turn this off if you don't want to know more! Waiting on you now. Alright, so it wasn't really hard to figure out what was going on when Alan, played by Charlie Hunnam, figured out that Thomas, played by Tom Hiddleston, was married. The movie certainly treads on tropes that have been overused by prior ghost stories, and I'm primarily talking about ghosts warning the living of their killer, but probably no movie has looked this good while using these elements. Mia Wasikowska plays the lead role as Edith, whose, I have to point out, big action hero final girl attire is her nightgown. It is the most inappropriate gear to combat crazy people and ghosts, and yet in this movie, it's totally at home. At a young age, Edith is told by the ghost of her mother to beware Crimson Peak. Fast forward a few years to when she looks like Mia Wasikowska, and she's writing a ghost story novel that no one wants to publish because there's not enough romance in it. After her father's death, whom no one but Alan thinks might be a murderer, who takes a fall so hard that they break the sink? Edith marries Thomas and goes to live at Allerdale Hall, which is borderline sinking into its red clay foundation. Of course, all of this is part of Thomas and his sister Lucille's sinister plan, which is of course revealed later. Lucille is played by Jessica Chastain, who decides she's going to try to steal the show from Mia Wasikowska. This is how good the acting is, when Tom Hiddleston, who is still awesome, is upstaged because two actresses are deciding to have a performance duel. You have reason to keep your eyes open. The most convincing scenes in the movie are when Edith and Lucille are just going at it, butting heads. I mean, the chemistry between them, the weird chemistry, I mean, who needs ghosts when you have Jessica Chastain playing a bitch? But the ghosts themselves are oddly beautiful in their grotesquerie. There's some sort of a creepy sense of mask to these ghosts that really works on screen. Why is that? Because these ghosts aren't completely CG. I'd like Del Toro to know that I love him and he can have my babies. Actors and makeup were actually utilized on set to bring these ghosts to life. They were made digitally intangible in post-production and then color graded red. And I don't know if anyone noticed, but they really pulled a sixth sense here. The color red only shows up in the film when it's relating in some way, big or small, to the ghosts. The red ghosts look horrifyingly blood-soaked, but is it blood? Or the red clay that they've been buried in? Since the red clay obviously stands for the bloodshed that's taken place in the house, in a way it's both. And I actually really appreciate how conservative the use of these ghosts are. They're terrifying, but their minimalistic screen time actually adds to the eeriness of the narrative. Like I said, not necessarily a ghost story, but a story with ghosts in it. Now ultimately the third act plays out like I expected. Ghosts are Thomas's past wives he married for their inheritance, and Lucille poisoned them all, and Edith wisely decides she no longer likes tea anymore. Alan tries to rescue Edith, but gets horribly wounded, because even though he's figured out that Thomas and Lucille are murderers, he doesn't bring protection with him. And Thomas is on a road to redemption because he actually does love Edith, even though he's been plowing his sister for his whole life. This movie in Game of Thrones makes it very clear. If siblings have a love affair, then the brother will always find some redemption, whereas the sister will just end up being a psycho. So ladies, if you want to screw your brother, then you're out of luck. But boys, if you want to screw your sister, well, go ahead. You won't lose your soul, but there's a chance she might stab you in the face. After Lucille does exactly that, it comes to a showdown between her and a wounded, poisoned Edith. It's a little anticlimactic, I admit, but I didn't expect Ghost Thomas to show up and distract Lucille long enough for Edith to whack her brains out. And whack them out she does. I'd say it was hair-splitting, but I don't know if that works. But what does work is the specific vision of this movie. Del Toro loves simple, fairy tale ending stories, and he brings them to life in very beautiful ways. He's not here to reinvent the wheel, he's just here to make it look good, and it's that wheel I love watching spin. Hey, that was a lot better than that hair-splitting analogy. Del Toro focuses on making tried and true ghost story tropes effective through strong characters, slow burn storytelling, and aesthetics. For example, take all the machinery in this movie, and the setting of a world relying on electricity, the future. This is an era trying to move away from ghost stories. Edith is largely the only character that really believes they exist. Now look at Thomas, who's trying to create a future for himself by putting all his money into these machines. Well, money from his dead wives. Edith said that the ghosts in her novel were a metaphor for the past. I think it's safe to assume that's what Del Toro is telling us these ghosts symbolize up front. So these things are coming from the past to disrupt Lucille and Thomas's future and their faith in it. So everything comes together. The setting, the details, it all ties into the characters and the narrative almost seamlessly. Minor note, I also loved the iris transitions popular in film in the 1890s. It was a nice little reflexive nod there. It's that sort of artistic, expensive looking vision that puts it in a niche. Del Toro himself said, "I think people are getting used to horror subjects done as found footage or B-value budgets. I wanted this to feel like a throwback." And indeed, there really aren't many movies in the horror ghost genre today that look like this film. Let's just say it has far more thought put into it than Paranormal Activity 19. It's far from the norm, and it's not what people were expecting. And sadly, that's largely why it's not doing so well at the box office. That and poor advertising. Regardless, after a long summer of movies looking and feeling exactly the same, despite being different genres and subjects, this movie stands out, and in a really good way. It's an expensive movie of the horror ghost subgenre, a gothic romance. How often are we going to get a movie like this? Rephrase! How often are we going to get a movie like this done so well? See Crimson Peak. It's one of the best movies of the year, and it deserves a bigger audience. If you have seen it, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And again, if you want to hear more thoughts on the film, make sure you check out Kyler and Monica's episode of The Before, The After, and The After, right up here. In the meantime, make sure you subscribe to our channel, red button, and make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and SoundCloud. Check out our website, movieholics.net, and if you want to follow me personally, my Twitter is gman on sci-fi. Also, make sure to take a gander at my column, Sci-Fi Tokusatsu. It's in the description below. That's about all I have for you guys today. Thanks for playing along, and next time we meet, I hope everyone's seen Crimson Peak. Pleasant dreams.